Next lady is a college professor. She does the same gospel music. She teaches students psychology over at A&T University. She called me. I tell you what, I'll let her tell you. Dr. Susan Schuler.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. And so I'm afraid I may not be quite as eloquent in my presentation as that. I am a licensed practicing psychologist, and I am a biomedical researcher. I don't practice very much. I do more research than anything else. I am a scientist, but I'm not here to talk to you as a psychologist or as a scientist, but as a patient who at one point in time could hardly walk, was in a wheelchair. I have to give you a little bit of background about why, how this developed. Then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the therapy. And then I'm going to try to explain it to you, being a scientist, in terms of biological reasons that this therapy works. Don't have it all worked out yet, but I'm working on it. Ever since I can remember, I had fibromyalgia pain. Back in those days, it was called fibrositis, I think. And I would wake up in the morning at like age 6 to go to school and feel like I had the flu. I ached all over. Except I'd wake up Sundays with like that, not just school days. And I also had a lot of allergies. I was a very sick child. I almost died several times. I was an only child, and my parents were extremely protective of me because I almost had it happen. To make things more difficult on them, I had ADHD, which attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and the hyperactive part at that point in time was probably a blessing, because if it hadn't have been for the need to have that kind of activity all the time, the fibromyalgia probably would have progressed a whole lot faster than it did. But I was able to get out and do some exercise, even though it hurt for a long time when I got up in the morning. In addition, I was a tomboy, and in addition, I loved horses and decided I was going to be a professional horse trainer. This terrified my parents. And when I was 10 years old, I started teaching riding lessons and bought my own horse. Came home and said, "Daddy, look what I got," which of course was extremely upsetting. But during all of that, I got clobbered a few times, pretty thoroughly by horses. I got stomped on, stepped on, fingers jerked out of joint, you know, just a little bit of everything. And every time this happened, my father in particular would just be furious. He would yell at me, and he would go around the house undermining my confidence. And at one point in time, I was on crutches. I'd been thrown and stomped on. And so I couldn't get away from him. I was on crutches, and so I just had to listen to him. And this went on until I left home and started college. And I put myself through college and graduate school as a horse trainer, professional horse trainer. Now, I am a type A person. I'm an overachiever, I'm a high-stress person. I go 90 miles an hour. And about a year and a half ago, my stress level increased tremendously from my job and my desire to be a perfectionist and working 20 out of 24 hours a day. But also, at that point in time, about the only family I had left was my father's brother, who was my uncle in Florida. And a number of things had happened in his life that were also very stressful for me. And I had to run back and forth to Florida while I was trying to teach classes. And my husband and I have a horse farm. So I was trying to help him with the horse farm in addition. and trying doing everything to perfection and couldn't do it. And long about a year ago, December, I decided I have to go on medical leave. I can't keep on working. So I went on medical leave from the university without pay, rather than disability. And I did that because I thought, well, if I get a paycheck every month and I'm not doing anything but laying here in bed, I might like it. And so I didn't want to spend the rest of my life like that. By then, I could hardly walk. Something like this, I'd be here in a wheelchair. This time last year, I would have been here in a wheelchair for something like this, because I couldn't walk to all of those. I've been to, I also have been diagnosed with osteoarthritis. Big knuckles, and the feet are even worse. And I have been to half a dozen different doctors, been all the painkiller routes, all he talked about. And the only thing that helped the fibromyalgia at all was narcotics. And I knew darn good and well if I was getting clobbered by a horse when I was conscious, if I'm out of it on narcotics, I'm going to get killed. Because I'm dealing with a stallion and babies, and so there's no way. So I finally decided there has to be something else out there, and it's not all in my mind, as several of them told me, go see a psychiatrist. And so I had talked to my attorney about something else, and somehow or other we got to talking about fibromyalgia, and he said, well, I know two people who have been to this person in Winston-Salem, and they're now back at work. And I said, okay, I'll find out what this is about. So he gave me their names and phone numbers, and one of them lived in Norfolk or Newport News or somewhere quite a distance away, who had come back to Kent from that long distance for treatment. They'd both been out of work for a couple of years. They both were back at work. One of them said that Kent saved her life. She was back at work and functioning fine, doing wonderfully. And the other one was back at work also. Didn't attribute it to Kent. And I said, well, why did you get better? What did you do? Well, I just got better. Well, if you have fibromyalgia, you don't just get better. It just does not go away. So I figured, okay, so you don't want to give the guy credit for it. You're better, you're back at work. I'll give it a try. Now, I didn't believe it would work. I'm a hardcore scientist. None of the soft, mushy, Freudian stuff or any of that. So I come over to Kent and had both the Bowen therapy and the mind-body work. And after about 2 sessions, I still was convinced it wasn't going to work, except that it wasn't taking an hour to get out of bed. I would roll out of bed on the floor, crawl around for a while, till I thought I could stand the pain to get up on my feet and go to the bathroom and take a handful of painkillers. That's how it was. I noticed that it wasn't taking an hour. It was taking 45 minutes, and then it was taking 30 minutes. And the duration of the pain, the severe pain, was not nearly as long. So I said, okay, I went ahead and had paid in advance for the sessions to make sure I could commit myself. I don't want to flake out, because I had an hour and a half drive, and that was kind of a pain anyway to get there. So after 9 sessions, I didn't have any more fibromyalgia. And then I thought, well, when I go back to work and the stress comes back, it's all going to come back again. And I told him, I said, I won't pay in advance for another session because I'm going to be back. But the pain has not returned. I not only am pain-free from the fibromyalgia, for the first time in my life, I can get out of bed in the morning and not have to worry if I'm going to fall down because my feet hurt so bad. I can wear shoes. I can wear what shoes I want to wear. Instead of, there would never really would be decent pair of shoes that I could wear anyway. And